change or not. You know. But yeah, I knew I needed to make a change. It's just maybe it was supposed to be a little bit different. Called as being a broken picker. I have a broken picker. I pick people that tend to be negative and have a lot of their own negative baggage, which does not help when it gets lumped along with mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to be a person that wants to try and help fix people, but they don't want to help themselves get fixed either. So they just anchor me down and drag me down further. Yeah, figuring out how that one happened would be an interesting one, but I'm sure it does stem from my childhood too. My dad never worked. He was a Vietnam vet that had some mental issues and was not on medication until I moved out at 16, and he got on medication when I was 17, finally. So he never worked. He was always at home. He was very controlling. The only way I could really get away from him or have him leave me alone was to bake things or cook things, because then he'd actually leave me be, because that would destroy whatever I was cooking or making, and that would be a big expense. So I definitely spent a lot of time baking and cooking as an out from the whole experience being at home.
Do you feel as though you're carrying on from where your mother does she have a broken picker as well?
I'm sure she does, yes. When my husband and I, when we were together, I ended up realizing that he was so much like my father, except he wasn't controlling the same way as my dad. But he never worked. He stayed at home. I supported him. I supported the family. And I did whatever I had to do to support the family. Well, when I finally came to that realization, I was like, oh, in 10, 15 years, I don't want to be looking back and going, I'm just like my mom. I don't want to do that. And so I gave him an ultimatum. I said, you've got a month to fix things, get a job, do these things, help support the family, or go. He chose to go. But I told my mom like 2 weeks after he and I separated that we're done. And that was the first time she ever said she was proud of me. She said she was proud of me because I had the power to do something she's never been able to do.
You saw the video that I created,
Yes.
and it's sort of the first part of a 3-part series, and it describes how the treatment works, or therapy, or the ancient rediscovered
Yes.
instructions on how to clear our minds so that we could do basically it's a do-over. And it seemed like you were pretty excited that you actually want to do it.
Yes.
So this would be terrific. Now you're not going to know if it works right away. It may take time, but then it may work right away. So it'll be a great thing to do. The thing that is shared by everybody is that we have lived long enough and have been bombarded with so many traumas that they accumulate and build up to the point where they become unmanageable in a way. And we don't want to snowball into something that is an avalanche later on in life.
Yeah.
We want to be productive and we want to be liked and loved by everybody. But to do that, we have to love ourselves first.
Yes,
This
we
is
do.
the first process.
Yeah. I also would say that most recently, I left my job of 3 years and my hometown where I grew up to come down to Phoenix.
That's incredible. Not very many people
No.
just pick up and leave.
No, with my 9-year-old daughter, and came down here without a job or anything, but to live with some people that this is to be a certain situation, and such things have not gone correctly, and that's part of that broken picker. And I've been doing so well for those 3 years with my daughter and living on her own and same job, and yet I uprooted us. And yeah, kind of just going,
Intuitively, I feel as though you knew you had
Yeah.
to make a change.
yeah. Whether I was fully aware of paying attention to the right circumstances of that change or not, or, you know.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I knew I needed to make a change. It's just maybe it was supposed to be a little bit different of a change.
You can always go back to where you're from.
Yes, I can.
Maybe you came down here to get a clearing,
Maybe.
a rebirth.
Yep.
You didn't even know it, but here you are.
Yep.
Luck of the draw, and then you get to go back and actually are comfortable with it. You can live anywhere in the world because you'll be able to live with yourself
Yes.
and not question it anymore.
Yep.
I think I mentioned to you, I think that it's all about forgiveness.
Yes. Yeah.
And we get to forgive ourselves first
Yes.
when the blocks
Are gone.
Are gone.
Yep.
Now,
Definitely have those.
now, talk about just a little bit about your accident that you had when you were really young.
When I was 9, a week before Christmas, I got into a major car accident. It was a rollover. We got T-boned and we rolled 3 times. I was actually the most hurt out of everybody in the car. My dad ended up having to have back surgery because he had 2 crushed discs in his lower back. My sister had a bruise on her cheekbone. I spent a couple months in drug-induced coma and had to learn to walk again. Had to have reconstructive surgery in a number of places.
This is you now.
Yes, this is me. Yeah, I had to have lots of reconstructive surgery. I didn't find out about all of what had happened until I was pregnant with my son at 17. And then I was just blown away by what I did find out. I still have a bone out of place in my neck. And I guess that's the only thing that really, you know, it's the reminiscent of, you know, that whole thing. And that was the thing I always knew about. But the other things I found out about, it was like, oh my goodness. I have a, you know, plate and a few screws in my foot. My hip sockets have been restructured. My arm, something, you know, to my arm and shoulder area. My cheekbone, my jawbone. My cheekbone's been restructured. My jawbone has 3 links in it. It looks like a bicycle chain. And my nose, you know, had my nose redone because of it. It was really traumatic, and that was all week before Christmas. I got my new nose Christmas Eve. So, yeah.
Something Michael Jackson would have been proud of, right?
Yes. This one at least you can't tell. So it's not the.
Well,
main
you're
Michael
adorable.
Jackson. Thank you.
What's going to happen is that you're going to get a clearing house, so to speak, of all of the localized traumas that are residing in the sites that were injured. But I taught you a little bit of EFT and how to
Yes.
do that.
Yeah.
Those still should be done anyway.
Oh yes.
But it's the psychology too, the way our mind communicates with itself, which is part of how the true 100% healing of our body total.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. You're going to be a great, you know, test here, and this is going to be a year process where I get to follow up with you in, I don't know, 3, 6, 9, and 12 months, see how you are,
Yeah.
and you'll be part of this documentary,
Okay.
so that we can prove that it works, and I
Yes.
know that it does because I learned it from somebody just for a specific area, happened to be extreme eating disorders. And I only thought that it was just for that because it's the way I was taught. But then as I studied it, I realized, well, this is everything. And that's what I got to prove.
Yeah.
And
And I've got a varying degree of things. You know, my son died when I was 18.
now that you didn't tell me.
Oh yeah, no, my son died when I was 18.
Okay, you have
My
trauma.
first child.
You have separation things
Yep.
with somebody that you
Yeah, I went back to work when he was a month old. I didn't spend much time with him because I had to go back to work and support my family. And he died at 9.5 months old. And that will be 12 years ago, May 23rd. It'll be 12 years.
Did life change for you after that?
Oh yes. Yes.
Did you feel disconnected with yourself and you haven't recovered?
Yeah.
Well, you've been
yeah.
with relationships that have not been truly successful. So
No,
that's
not
part
since
of it.
then. Yeah. Well, my husband's and my relationship changed after that.
Oh, okay.
And then we had our daughter, and he never bonded with her. Like I spent the first 10 months with her at home, not leaving her side. at that point, and then I went back to work, but she went with childcare ever since then, um, he never had a bond with her. And then he spent the last year in her life, and then he died. So that's also another, major trauma there.
Out of curiosity, does this affect your other child as
My
well?
daughter?
Even though she's 9 years old, does she miss having a sister and
A
because she
brother?
knows, or brother?
Yeah,
she knows the story.
she knows of her brother. And just the other day, she actually told me she looks forward to meeting him in the future.
Oh, cute.
And I said, well, hopefully that's a long time away, Hayla. Long time away.
Well, it's common practice for children to be rebirthed. They call it baptismals.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're doing it correctly and for the right reason.
No, they're not.
You can. We'll do this. We can even do it today if we got time. I'd like to do it before I go to Tucson. But I'll stay for as long as it takes, and then you can do this with your own children.
Yeah,
Get
that
them.
would be good.
They've been traumatized
Yes.
with the injection, vaccinations, with if they were injured, whatever, emotionally, and then you can have a real fresh start in
The
life.
loss of her father in her life.
There
when
you
he
go.
just came back into her life. Yeah,
You came to Phoenix for the right reason.
Yeah.
You won't know that until after this is
yeah.
over.
There's always reasons for what we do, whether we can see him at first or not. Yeah.
Well, you've been very good. You're an excellent interviewee.
Well, thank you. And yeah, as I said, I have had a lot of traumas and experiences in my life, and I just tend to put a little face on, mask on, and go about
Yeah.
my day.
This drops
it's the only
out.
way to be able to continue a lot of times.
You can be genuine and honest once this is done, and you'll never have to worry about hiding behind a veil of secrecy.
Yeah, it's a good thing because
You watch
it makes
me.
life difficult.
Your children benefit too because they see a dynamic mother in their life.
Yeah.
And the fact that you may find somebody that you really are in tune with, and it just makes for a family.
A positive, happy environment.
Thank you. Well, good enough. Thank you very much. Malika.
Malika, yes.
All right.
So the whole of the body is represented by the ear. And when you treat that part of the ear, you're treating that part. But you're treating it through the brain. And you could think of the brain as the central processing unit for your body. The ear is like a keyboard. It connects you with that part of your brain. So when we do a treatment on the ear, on let's say the neck point of the ear, we're actually connecting to your brain and changing what's going on in your brain, and then that's changing what's going on in your neck.
I had a speech impediment, and I had to be taken to a speech therapist and go through the whole routine, and I got over it.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, but I noticed that you have one too.
Yeah.
Are you able to talk about that?
No, I don't really talk about it. I know I stutter sometimes, but I'm not concerned about it.
Was it always like that, or did it happen at a certain time in your life?
I don't really recall, to tell you the truth.
You've always known it?
No, I've never really paid attention to it. That's what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't embarrass you,
No,
because
no, not
I
at
just
all.
mentioned it.
Everybody says that too. I noticed
I
you have a
think it's
stutter.
cute.
I
My mother taught me something.
I just always talk like that, and so I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah.
No. Maybe it's because I don't know. I guess there must be maybe a little bit of hesitation within me that we could even talk. Yeah. So
How do you see yourself?
me?
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot. These days, I have a much more positive outlook on myself because I've got. Let's face it, we all go through trials and tribulations in our lives, but it's when I started to ask myself, what do I need to learn from this? That's when I actually started to actually learn what I need to learn from it, and these lessons started to become fewer and fewer because as I was asking the right questions and getting the answers, the problem never presented itself again, which is great because that's the whole thing. You're right. My life has become smoother and unencumbered by any problems practically at all.
You're going to embark on something very interesting. This is going to be an unusual thing in the sense that how often do you do a rebirthing technique or bump into somebody that
Yeah.
has this idea, and do you have any feelings or expectations on what might happen, good or bad? What are your feelings in the past day?
Well, I think it's good. I'm looking forward to doing it, and I'm looking forward to the, well, from what you were explaining to me, that the rebirthing program brings you back to your original state from when you first came into this world, which I think it makes sense because it kind of like cleanses you of all of the illusion that has clouded your life, spiritually and emotionally and mentally. So it just kind of like washes away that first layer of illusion and allows you to bring forth your true being.
When I was growing up and I was a child, I felt the best at that time in life.
Mm-hmm.
It was a spiritual time. I felt limitless. I had, I knew that I had a whole life to live of that. And I gradually kind of spiraled into the same thing that we all experience, the trials of life. And until I do this therapy, I'm actually, what I'm looking forward to? It's becoming a child again. That feeling of the expression of freedom.
Yeah.
Because we all learn how to be locked away. We've locked ourselves away.
That's right.
The society has locked our sovereignty away, and just all those things and the responsibilities that we have. And I never enjoyed life once I became responsible for things until I got good at it, and then it became a routine. But then we kind of police ourselves, and not when we're children. That's when we're the most creative, and I look forward to that when I do my rebooting of the mind. Just, what this is the true brainwashing, the healthy brainwashing, the washing away. The blockades are brought down to finish up because we need to go. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you do after this. You may share the same opinion, but it may change too, and we'll find out what that is.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be valuable for your relationship with your husband.
Oh yeah.
You'll be able to see, more into it, and he may even want to do this too.
Yeah.
We all do. Gosh.
We're all nuts. I know I am.
You know, we're all wholly lovable, and remember, just you know, to be kind and just be kind and want to be good. We have to want to be good. And not that people are bad, because nothing is bad. We just have to want to have a deep desire for love and absolute deep peace. Think about it. When we're born into this world perfect, with no encumbering problems. And why not do a rebirthing just to bring yourself back to that same state of perfectness as when you were just born? Because it's a fabulous idea. I mean, everybody should do it. You know, if it brings you health and it makes you whole again.
What it does is it's the way to reboot the mind.
Yeah.
Just like a computer. And we're just like that. And then all of the viruses have been eradicated. And we start from a clean reboot, and we get to do the do-over. Now, we don't lose our memories, our traumatic memories. And the subconscious rises to the conscious, where we do remember that which we tucked away. But we're able to get through it because forgiveness is how this is working. And it happens without sitting in a chair
Yeah, I never.
with a therapist.
I didn't do it through therapy. I never went through therapy. It was my own personal. I'm just gonna get it done.
Uh-huh.
So,
Well, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you came about and what happened and what it's like
Okay.
now.
so my name is Laura,
Hi, Laura.
and I've always had strange things happen in my life. It's been a constant phenomenon all the time, and but I never really paid that much attention to it. I mean, I've always been spiritual. I was raised more spiritual than religious, very open-minded, very open household. Even the weird experiences I had as a kid, my mom was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." So I was never shot down for anything that was weird that I talked about as a kid, talking to old Native American guys that seemed to appear out of nowhere, or other beings that I said I saw and talked to. It was like, oh, okay, but I never really thought much of it because it was just like, oh, it always happens to me. And of course, you get older and you start shutting down that kind of stuff, and everyone's like, oh, you're crazy, don't talk about that kind of thing. So I always kind of just kept it to myself, but I always stayed very in tune with that kind of stuff because it runs in my family. My dad's side of the family, we have Native American bloodlines, and then my mom's side of the family, actually, my grandmother's Portuguese, and her mom used to do exorcisms for the Catholic Church on the down low in Hawaii. So I found that out, and I was like, whoa, so weird stuff's been happening, like the VA and stuff like that. I have a disability rating for mental health, and they're like, what is wrong with you? We can't figure it out. And I'm like, I don't know, nothing's happened. But I was in this very state of out of my power is really what it was. I was always in a victim state. I was always trying to help people, but then at the same time, I was always really upset all the time, depressed. I always felt like I didn't have control of my life. I always felt like something weird was going on, and I could never get ahead, ever. I was constantly fighting myself to try to be better, do better, and that's that just to keep out of power.
There was a confusion. and
Yeah,
you couldn't
there was.
understand it.
I didn't know who I was. I kind of never, I don't know, it was like really confusing. I was flipping altars all the time, and especially when certain people showed up in my life. That's what they were meant to do, was to come in and cause chaos for me. Whenever I started getting myself back together again. As soon as I started healing myself, these people would show up, same people that I've known for 15 years, would move out of state to wherever I was, whatever state I moved to. I was in a cycle. When I finally decided that enough was enough, I broke contact with that person for good, like in a way that I can't say that. I'm a really good channel as well, things like that, interdimensional beings. I've always been aware of it. I actually apparently, I don't remember this, but apparently other beings were coming through me and telling that person to leave. We know what you are, we know what you're doing, you need to leave. And he freaked out. I was like, what's going on, you're crazy, blah, blah. Started being really aggressive towards me and attacking me, but in the end, left. At the same exact time, I was guided to go to metaphysical groups, people who channeled archangels and ascended masters, who I've already had contact with. I didn't realize that's who I was talking to as a teenager. I was these beings in white robes and said they were some sort of brotherhood. I was like, whatever, I don't know who you guys are. And I was like, oh, it's apparently the Great White Brotherhood and the Ascended Masters and things like that. So I didn't even know who those people were until I started looking to see, like, who are these people, these beings, these ascended beings. And when I finally got into that state of high vibration, it was like somebody just took a load of weight off me, and I could finally like breathe for the first time. And just being around people who are very loving, very compassionate, that were willing to just kind of bring that kind of energy in, made me realize that there was something different. It wasn't about this repression and victim stuff and people being really mean to me. So through that process, it took about 3 years of me to slowly going, well, do I believe in myself enough? Am I doing okay? And then I started reconnecting with the other side. Some ETs showed up and were like, hey, we need you to remember what you're doing. We're here to help you. If you need help, just ask. We can't break the rules. It's a free will planet. But if you want our help, by all means ask us and we'll do what we can.
That's great. Then you had contact with benevolent beings and you were able to
And
do
it's
this.
really like, I was never afraid of extraterrestrials. I was always afraid of the military. I was like, is it a human?
Tell me about
Terrified.
your military experience with all that. You described a little bit off camera. If you could reiterate it.
The military stuff, from what I remember, was remote viewing, working with super soldiers, battlefield awareness, superior battlefield awareness is what I remember being called, where we would bilocate and remote view certain battlefield areas and then be able to communicate with soldiers and tell them, there's 5 guys over here. Don't take the convoy down this road because there's mines. Go left. And then I ran into other people who were in the military infantry that were super lucky. They said, we're super lucky all the time. Like, we just knew where these people were. And so everyone loved driving with us, or everyone loved going out with us because, we always got out of danger. Like, we were always safe. And I was like, oh, it's kind of like what I was thinking because we used to be able to do that. And I even had memories of like sharing a body with somebody and being like, you need to go left, go right. And it was not my body. It was like a masculine, like someone who's super trained.
Were you able to see through their eyes and hear through their ears?
And I had night vision. I could see through like night vision. I could feel.
So this is real deal stuff.
Yeah, well, apparently I was like, oh, this isn't something that I just thought of that was cool. Like, it became a real memory when I had my memory unlocked. Nobody calls me, I just like to say that. So that's my confirmation. So yeah, it is real deal stuff. There's my confirmation right there. And it took me a little while to even believe that, like after I got my memories back.
Right.
And thankfully, I guess this is the way it was set up. I went through kind of this ascension process of coming back into my power, connecting with the other side, connecting with my divine self, realizing that this is not what controls me. This is just a program, and that I'm coming from here, and that this isn't my only life. Like, this is not it. I know this is not it. And that brought me a lot of peace. And then they're like, oh, by the way, here's all this military stuff. Like, now that you got that settled and you feel better, like, let us show you all this.
I'd like to ask you a couple of things, but first, do you know Aaron McCullum?
I have heard of him. I haven't been able to research any super soldier stuff, mind
Okay.
control. Like,
You
every
did speak,
time-
though, at the Super Soldier Summit last year,
Right.
which was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and that was, I just shared my experience and that, you know, it's about kind of the stuff that I was exposed to.
Yeah.
But every time I go research this stuff, I have a very strong do not look program. Literally,
Okay.
it's like superior ADD to anything conspiracy theory. Like, I cannot.
Would you like to get over that so that you can deal with it and not have to worry about averting your eyes and ears?
I don't know, because, you know, I'm not really that interested. This is a part of my life.
But this is to help other people, too.
I think so too. Oh, yes. I mean, if you have to go do it. For me, this is a part of my life. It isn't my
Yeah.
life. And yeah, I would like
Sure.
answers, but
If
if I
you-
didn't get them, I'm okay with that.
It's okay, but if you can be of service to people that are suffering from this. See,
Oh, yeah.
you got out of it, you're lucky. But
Yeah.
if there are people that can't break out of it, I know that Stuart Swerdlow tries to help deprogram people.
But he doesn't. He actually, a lot of the stuff
Well, he
says-
charges a lot of money.
read
Sorry,
some-
Stuart, but you know, I don't charge people. And the thing is that this
I've
should be
read some
free.
of his stuff though, but some of the stuff I've read, it's literally the reverse of programming of what actually needs to happen.
Exactly.
And it bothered me because one of his things was that really like, it was right after I changed, I decided to change my name. I decided I'm going to change my name because I'm a completely different person right now. And one of the things he writes is, you know, people who change their name are more susceptible to mind control. And that's not the case. People who change their name have already been susceptible to mind control and are trying to get their power back. So if you change your name, it takes away that hypnotic key because your name is keyed to certain things. If you change it, they can't use that name anymore against you. But he's making it sound like, oh, if you change your name, then you're going to totally get mind controlled.
I don't know much about his
So that's
therapeutical
there's a
process.
few things I've read about that.
I
was like,
understand. What I want to do is I want to show them, people like that, this information that I have so that they can actually implement it in the way that they go about helping people so that they can have success.
That'd be nice, 'cause I
It is
can't-
no fun doing this, you know,
Doing it on your
routinely
own.
until you hope hitting this kind of thing. Let's get it right the first time. So
Exactly.
I think this is it. Now for you, do you feel as though you'd like to achieve a different plane, a different level, or do you think you're already there?
I'm there, but I'm still always learning. You know, I don't disregard anything that comes my way because I may think I'm okay now, but if you can't see beyond that curve, well, why stop? You know, you can always keep progressing.
It's
You
hard
can
to
always
step
keep
out of
trying.
ourselves to see us from a distance to really understand it because we're just within ourselves.
Yeah, and I just know, I'm like, you know, I'm always willing to, I play. And now I play with things. I go, what's this concept? All right, let's bring it. I love change. I love shifting the paradigm of my reality every second because there's always something cool that I find. And then sometimes I find stuff that's not true and it's like illusionary and I look at it and I go, this doesn't really do anything for me and I let it go.
Cool.
And it's even with modalities, with different healing modalities and things like that, I'm always willing to try because you know what? How would I know? How do I not know that that could help me?
So now would be a perfect time for you to watch the treatment, look at the video of it, and then I'd like to get your opinion on that. Perhaps we'll tape you again
Okay.
and see what your reaction is to it.
Cool.
Because if you're receptive to this and you try it, and I'll tell you what, you don't have to pay for anything. There's no pill. There's no diet plan. You don't have to prepare for it. This is a water rebirthing technique that doesn't take very long to do.
Nice.
It's one of those kinesiology emotional freedom techniques, just like tapping your cheeks. Have you ever seen?
The tapping, yeah.
Yeah, you do it yourself or have somebody help you with it, and voila, there you go. This is what the American Medical Association is actually afraid of. They don't want people to learn all this stuff, and the church has been hiding the secrets.